Thanks for joining our monthly community webcast. I'm Jürgen Kress, part of the Oracle Integration Product Management team. In case you missed one of our webcasts, on-demand recordings are available. For details, please see our monthly community newsletter and subscribe to our Video Hub partner channel. In today's presentation, Thrasos and Juan Carlos will showcase multi-cloud integration between Oracle SaaS and Azure. Hi, Thrasos.
Hi, Jürgen. Thanks for having me here.
Good afternoon, Juan Carlos.
Hi, Jürgen. Hi, guys. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks for attending. Objective of today's webcast is to introduce and demo a multi-cloud use case based on Oracle integration. Please pay attention to the Oracle Safe Harbor statement. Please blog and tweet only about services and functionality which is available today. Quick housekeeping. Please feel free to post your questions via the conference Q&A tool or Twitter hashtag PaaS community anytime. At the end of the webcast, we will answer them. Slides are available at our Video Hub channel and community website. Please share your feedback via the Zoom survey at the end of the webcast. For today's agenda, after the community announcements, I will hand over to Thrasos and Juan Carlos to give you insights into the Oracle Integration Cloud multi-cloud demo scenario. We will showcase you the solution with Azure and Oracle Marketing Cloud in a nice demo. And at the end of the webcast, we will answer your questions. Some quick announcements. The nomination for the Oracle Excellence Award is open. Please submit your partner best practice showcases where you implemented successful Oracle Integration Cloud and Oracle Digital Assistant. You can nominate your awards in the following categories: application modernization, autonomous database, business transformation, and for persons CIO and cloud architects or cloud security champion and data analytics. As a partner, you can submit your nomination as an SI or ISV. Some tips for the nomination. Please emphasize on the challenges you solved in the business case and business value of your customers, and highlight metrics which matter to win the award. Submission is open until April 1st, 2022. We would like to invite you to join us for our annual conference, the Partner Technical Forum, which will take place March 22nd to 25th for EMEA and April 5th to 8th for JPAC in India. It's a one-week conference for developers, consultants, and architects who would like to learn more about updates on the product and roadmap directly from product management. We offer 8 different tracks: Oracle integration to build chatbots with Oracle Digital Assistant, develop intelligent apps, analytics, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, EXA Service, Apex, Oracle Data Platform, including Lakehouse, and security and identity management. Registration is open. Register now to secure your seat. We continue to offer, based on the high demand, the 3-day hands-on bootcamps, which are free of charge for our partners who would like to connect Oracle SaaS, like in today's presentation. If you're a consultant and like to learn more about this Oracle integration, please join us for upcoming bootcamps. We offer 2 bootcamps a month in different time zones. For details and registration, please see the partner community newsletter. The February edition is published at PaaS News February 2022, including all the upcoming trainings, webcasts, and product informations. For a one-stop portal, please visit our community website. Quick updates on the digital assistant side. We offer now the free on-demand training for Oracle Digital Assistant in Spanish and English. The Oracle Developer Partner Community newsletter with all the information about digital assistant, development tools like VPCS and chat, and application development is also available for you as a partner. For more information, please visit the community website. With this short information, I would like to hand over to Thrasos. Thank you for attending, Thrasos.
Thanks, Jürgen. Let me share my screen quickly and set the context around multi-cloud. Can everybody see my screen, Jürgen?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, let's get it going then, everybody. Hi, my name is Thrasos, and I lead the integration domain across EMEA And today I'm going to set the context on the multi-cloud integration and set the scene essentially for Juan Carlos to take us into a bit more detail in a while. Now, if I were to place a bet, that would be that we will hear the term multi-cloud more and more these days. Analysts such as IDC, Gartner do mention it a lot these days, but also mega cloud vendors like AWS, Oracle, of course, and boutique firms like Nutanix. In fact, if you check it out, Gartner advises their customers to be defining and implementing cloud strategies that do include multi-cloud. And they're urging businesses to explore such an approach. Nutanix, as you can see on the bottom right there, they did a survey with about 1,700 respondents, out of which 64% said that they are expected or they're expecting to be operating in a multi-cloud environment in the near future, not today, not tomorrow, but in the near future. You can all Google multi-cloud and you will see all the new areas where it's popping up. Okay. Now, what do we mean with multi-cloud? Multi-cloud architecture is about distributing workloads across two or more cloud infrastructure platforms. For example, we can have a microservices-based application, a modern insurance application with components spanning across different clouds, Azure, AWS, or Oracle. You can have self-contained applications, again, running on different clouds, talking between them using APIs. Or you can even have applications where one part of the stack is on one cloud and the other part, like the database, for example, is on another cloud like Oracle. Okay? Or you can think about long-running processes calling on systems across multiple clouds, like a supply chain, for example, where the warehouse system is running on one cloud, the ERP on another, a custom extension on a third cloud, and they are all working seamlessly together, executing an end-to-end process across all of these 2 or 3 different clouds. Is it the future? Possibly yes. Is it becoming more popular? Yes. Why are the analysts promoting it? Why they're talking about it a lot more? Essentially because they are promoting the best of breed approach, where, for example, the enterprises can leverage the best in class, as they believe, components from different clouds, even though I do not necessarily believe personally on this best in class approach. Still, that is one reasoning why multi-cloud. The other reasoning is behind reducing the technology and business dependency and exposure on any single vendor. Okay, that's also something to be taken into account. Now, this is about multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is really a part of Oracle's strategy. And if you Google again, if you search around Oracle Cloud or multi-cloud and Oracle and Microsoft, you will see that we are in a partnership with Microsoft. We're advertising extensively, leveraging the networking connectivity between Oracle and Azure to better streamline and wire the systems together. Okay, we're using Express Route from Microsoft, Interconnect, Fast Connect from Oracle, and you can see in the example here that essentially part of the application on the left runs on Azure, part of the application, namely the database, runs on the Oracle cloud infrastructure. Now, I have to be clear that whilst we do love, let's say, Microsoft in this respect of multi-cloud, and we have more than a dozen different data centers where we have this good interconnect between us, Oracle and Microsoft. The context of this presentation today spans beyond Microsoft. It also applies to Google Cloud, to AWS, and other third-party clouds. And Juan Carlos will give examples as well later on. Multi-cloud also goes beyond what you generally see, the network interconnectivity. At the bottom stack of the layer, compute, storage, network, yes, we just mentioned fast route and interconnect. But also, more often than not, these days we are being asked as Oracle to do identity federation and access management federation between 2 or 3 different clouds, seamlessly connecting identity for business corporate users for our customers. We're also being asked to synchronize data between different clouds or orchestrate batch movement of data between different clouds, Oracle and others. And what we will focus on today is the top layer there, application and systems, where we will see how we can run end-to-end processes and how we can connect application systems together using Oracle Integration Cloud. In fact, talking about Oracle Integration Cloud, that is key to our strategy for integrating stuff in general, I must say, but also for when it comes to multi-cloud between Oracle SaaS applications and systems, applications, databases, whatever runs on third-party clouds, as you can see on the diagram here. Okay. Oracle Integration Cloud, I am hoping that you're all familiar with. It's our main product, our core product for connecting applications across different systems. It has been used extensively. We have thousands of customers doing on-premise to cloud integration, cloud to ground. We have customers doing Oracle Cloud-centric, as I call it, integration, different Oracle applications on the Oracle Cloud, connected using Oracle Integration Cloud. We are, of course, connecting Salesforce and other different systems, not just Oracle systems. The platform is an enterprise-ready, capable platform. But of course, now on this call today, we will talk about multi-cloud and explore how we can do things with the different third-party clouds. And again, there you have to take into account that we have to essentially resolve a few things like security, latency, ease of use, and more or less meet a non-functional SLA, as well as address a number of different patterns, pushing from one cloud to the other, combination and batch movement or event-driven. Yes, there are common questions that we get when we talk about multi-cloud. Latency comes up very often. And again, I've referred to interconnect between the two clouds, Oracle and Azure, as one solution. Data governance can be dealt with automation and tools. Security, we handle encryption, addressed and in transit, as well as Juan Carlos will talk about the on-premise agent and how it ensures a secure communication between the different clouds. And of course, architecturally, we can wire things together properly using many decades of best practices of experience that we have as Oracle to bring things together for our customers' benefits. And with that, I will hand over to Juan Carlos to take us even in more detail on how we architecturally design and implement such multi-cloud solutions. Juan Carlos?
Thank you, Thrasos. So can you guys see my screen? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So hi guys, and thanks for joining this this webcast. So basically, what we have prepared is usual or common patterns that we have seen when enabling multi-cloud integration using Oracle Integration Cloud between Oracle SaaS or OCI applications and Microsoft Azure. So just to talk a little bit about myself, I'm a cloud integration advocate around EMEA within the App Innovation and Integration team here based in Malaga. And I used to post like different use cases using Oracle Integration and other OCI services. So you can check my YouTube channel as well as my shares on LinkedIn. So let's move on. And the first, let's say, story that I want to share with you is this is a story in a large bank in the UK, a real use case where they wanted to extract information about campaigns, contacts, and activities around Eloqua, our marketing cloud SaaS application. And they wanted to feed these, feed their data lake that it was in Google Cloud Storage, in Google BigQuery. And they wanted to extract that information from Eloqua and send that to their BigQuery so they can, let's say, measure the effectiveness of their targeted campaigns and all of that. So basically what we did, and actually our Oracle consulting team did, was basically to use Oracle Integration Cloud to extract those contacts, activities, and campaigns data, and send this information into Google Cloud Storage to stage that data there. And then Google has this, BigQuery has this capability called BigQuery Data Transfer Service, where you can schedule like transfers from files within Google Cloud Storage into BigQuery. So then they could use Google Data Studio to, let's say, on top of BigQuery to visualize those metrics and insights. So this is a project that is live right now. And let's say this is one of the use cases where basically we can use Oracle integration to extract information from a SaaS application, Oracle SaaS application, drop off those files into Google Cloud Storage, and then basically they can execute this kind of backload procedures to backload information from cloud storage, in this case Google Cloud Storage, into BigQuery. So that was one of the use cases that we have already implemented as specifically the Oracle consulting team. And we also have in this large bank in the UK another ongoing story where they basically want to have like they have like an accounting based marketing campaigns. So they want to automate the contacts approval flow and decide which contacts should receive an email or not. And they wanted to have like this contact approval system into in Azure, right? So what they basically want to do is every time a marketer activates a campaign, they're gonna send that data using Oracle integration to Microsoft Azure, and then they're gonna sales executives are gonna respond or answer questions if the contact should receive an email or not, and then we're gonna feed that data back to let's say Eloqua, right? And basically that drives me to the first let's say use case where and I call it this cloud integration approach 0 for multi-cloud integration between Oracle SaaS and Microsoft Azure. So basically, for this large bank in the UK, this approach is exposing REST APIs. So we can use OIC together with autonomous transaction processing to store or stage the data coming from Eloqua into ATP, and then expose REST APIs that are going to be consumed by this Azure application. So basically, what we have here is Eloqua is gonna, whenever a marketer is activating a campaign, during the execution of a campaign, we're gonna have something that is called Cloud App Decisions and Cloud App Actions or steps within an Eloqua campaign, which is gonna trigger like a webhook URL. In this case, the webhook URL is gonna be a URL or a REST endpoint exposed by OCI API Gateway. So why we are using here OCI API Gateway and OCI functions? Because Eloqua signs all outgoing calls with OAuth 1.8, 1.08. So OIC needs to validate that the call was sent by Eloqua, to protect this REST endpoint. So in this case, we basically put OCI API Gateway and to, let's say, have rate limiting policies and authentication and authorization policies. And we use OCI function as the, let's say, authorizer function that is gonna validate, let's say, those parameters. So once we have, once Eloqua calls OIC through OCI API Gateway, we're gonna have an integration that is gonna retrieve all the information from Eloqua, the campaign information together with the contacts. We're gonna stage, or the idea is to stage this and temporarily store these campaign details and contacts and the email content into ATP. So then the campaign waits for the approval or decision from the Azure API, and basically this Azure contact approval system is gonna update ATP with the response for every contact. Okay, Which authentication we used here to protect, let's say, the APIs exposed to Microsoft Azure. We are using OAuth 2.0 client credentials or authentication code protection in this case. So the idea was to do that. So then once we have the information and once the, let's say, campaign flows to the decision service, Eloqua is gonna call OIC again, right? And basically we're gonna ask ATP and we're gonna retrieve all the information. All the responses are gonna be retrieved from ATP. And finally, we're gonna update or send those the yes contacts and no contacts back to Eloqua, okay? And that doesn't mean, and actually this pattern is also common when you have like an Azure application deployed, obviously in a virtual machine in Azure or whatever you have there, and you're using ATP or Autonomous Database or MySQL HeatWave as the backend of this Azure application. So this pattern of exposing REST APIs either using ATP or MySQL HeatWave is one of the approaches we have for this multi-cloud integration approach. So the second approach, or approach one, is specifically for Fusion, Oracle Fusion SaaS applications like ERP Cloud, Oracle ERP Cloud, or even Oracle Engagement Cloud, CXLs, where basically we can leverage a capability from Fusion SaaS that is called the Business Intelligence Cloud Connector. So in case the idea is to generate cloud extracts from Oracle Fusion SaaS, those extracts can be defined, like set up within BICC in ERP Cloud. And then we can export that data, and we can define that the target of this data can be a bucket within Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Object Storage. So once we have the extract within OCI Object Storage, we can enable an event rule that is going to send the metadata of this file into OCI streaming. And once we have that metadata or that metadata JSON and request there, we can use Oracle Integration Cloud OCI Streaming Adapter as the consumer or as the trigger of that integration. So we can consume those events with the namespace name, with the bucket name and the file name. And then we can use the REST connector from OIC to call OCI Object Storage API and retrieve the file. In this case, those files, those cloud extracts, are output files in CSV format and are zipped as well, are compressed. So what we can do here with using the stage file action within Oracle Integration Cloud is stage this file, unzip it, enrich it, and finally adapt it so it can be sent to Azure, right? So in our case, we can even, if you have like complex transformations, optionally, you can use ATP, Autonomous Transaction Processing, for doing that complex transformation. Actually, we're doing this in the same bank in the UK. And finally, once we stage the file, we unzip it and all of that, we can drop the final file into Azure Blob Storage. So using the REST connector and using the Blob Storage, Azure Blob Storage API. So once we have, let's say, staged this file into Azure Blob Storage, one of the capabilities that Azure Data Warehouse and Azure SQL Data Warehouse or database has is an operation called bulk insert. So we could use the Microsoft SQL Server or the Azure SQL Database Adapter that we have in OIC, together with the OIC connectivity agent, and in order to let's say execute or initiate the execution of this stored procedure that they have there. That basically what the bulk insert procedure does in Azure SQL database or data warehouse is just to backload the information from blob storage directly into Azure SQL database or data warehouse. So why we are using the connectivity agent here? Because we have seen that customers sometimes they don't want to expose the Azure SQL database or data warehouse publicly, right? So the most common pattern, and it's usually that they have like deployed this Azure SQL database in a private subnet within Azure, within Microsoft Azure. So the idea here is that our connectivity agent can be installed in a virtual machine in the same private subnet as Azure SQL database or data warehouse. And as you know, the connectivity agent doesn't accept incoming or inbound traffic. It just it just allows outbound traffic, and is basically asking every 1 millisecond or 5 milliseconds if there's a new, let's say, request to execute something here in Azure SQL database or data warehouse. So the OIC connectivity agent is key for this multi-cloud integration, because basically we can access private resources in Microsoft Azure and using this connectivity agent without having the customers or you guys opening firewalls, right? So this is very important, and this is very key, the connectivity agent for security concerns, right? And the same approach can be applied, is the same flow, but we have another customer in the construction industry in the UK where they already have Microsoft Azure Data Factory. That is basically an ETL process, right? So the idea here is that in case the customer already have Microsoft Azure Data Factory, we, instead of using the connectivity agent, we can just drop the file into Azure Blob Storage, and then they can use like a scheduled flow in Azure Data Factory where they can extract information from Blob Storage and then upload that into Azure SQL database, okay? So this one is when in case the customer don't have Microsoft Azure Data Factory, so we can use the Azure SQL Database Adapter together with the OIC connectivity agent. And these use cases where the customer already have Azure Data Factory, okay? The same approach, but as you know, ERP has and Fusion SaaS applications have the capability to extract information using BI Publisher. So it's the same approach, only that is not event-driven. In this case, we can use the Fusion SaaS adapter, let's say the ERP Cloud Adapter, to extract information using the BIP schedule service. We can trigger that job, and then we can receive an event with the completion of the job, and then we can get the metadata and extract the file from the UCM, the Universal Content Management, within Fusion, and then we can do the same, drop the file off into Azure Blob Storage, and then either if the customer don't have Microsoft Azure Data Factory, we can use the SQL adapter to backload the information from Blob Storage into Azure SQL database, executing this bulk insert operation, or we just drop the file into Blob Storage and then you use Azure Data Factory for that. So a third approach is when this Oracle SaaS application or OCA application expose REST APIs, right? So sometimes either with the REST API or even with the SaaS adapter, for instance, HCM Cloud, we can use the HCM Cloud Adapter for our SaaS HR application, and we can extract information from HCM using the adapter, and then we can do the same, basically, like extract the information, then we can stage that information within OIC using the stage file action, and then we can enrich or transform that information into the target, like to the format that the target system needs. And then the same approach, we drop the final file into Blob Storage, and then we execute either the bulk insert operation using the Azure SQL Adapter, or If the customer have Azure Data Factory, we send that to Blob Storage, and then they are going to have like a data flow in Azure Data Factory where they are going to extract the information, transform, and then load that information into Azure database or data warehouse. A fourth approach is, I call it EvenDriven. So as you know, many of our CX, HR, and ERP applications, SaaS applications, and even the e-business suite or JD Edwards applications that are, let's say, deployed on OCI, those applications have the capability with our adapters, native adapters, to trigger business events, right? So they can trigger an integration whenever a business event occurs in that application. So for instance, if a purchase order is created or updated using the ERP Cloud Adapter, we can capture this event with the ERP Cloud Adapter as the trigger of the integration. Then we can enhance that information, that get more details on the purchase order, let's say, or the document using the same adapter. And then we can send this into OCI streaming. And here I'm using OCI streaming together with OIC because this could decouple our SaaS applications and the Azure SQL application or database. So once we drop this stream or this information into OCI streaming using the OCI streaming adapter, we can have another integration that consumes that stream and then use the Azure SQL adapter to, let's say, merge or insert or update that information into Azure SQL database or data warehouse. So this is when you want to fit an external system deployed in Microsoft Azure from an Oracle SaaS or OCI application, okay? Another approach or pattern is when you want to fit different SaaS applications, Oracle SaaS applications or OCI applications from an Azure application or system. So in this case, we can expose our REST API to receive, let's say, the supplier information or purchase order information, whatever you want. We can then send that information into OCI streaming. So once we have that, then we can have another integration that is going to consume that stream, and we can use our native SaaS adapters to send that information. For instance, from Microsoft Azure, they are generating B2B purchase orders, so we can get that into OCI streaming, and then we can use our OIC OCI streaming adapter to consume that information and then load the information into, in this case, Oracle ERP Cloud using the Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter. And once we have that, we can send, let's say, the ID generated by ERP Cloud for a purchase order back to the Azure system, because probably they want to, let's say, associate these IDs in both systems, right? So here are the links for the demos I have prepared, and you're going to see in a couple of seconds. But you can check my LinkedIn profile and to see those demos if you want to deep dive on those. But let's see it in action, okay? So the first demo story that I'm going to show you is an event-driven and real-time procurement operations in ERP Cloud using Oracle integration and Cloud Stream. So basically, the use case is there's going to be a procurement analyst who is going to navigate into Oracle ERP Cloud purchase order module. He or she is gonna generate a purchase order, and that purchase order is gonna be captured by Oracle Integration Cloud and sent to OCI streaming. And once we have that, we're gonna consume that stream, that purchase order data, and then we're gonna push that data into Azure SQL database. In this case, Azure SQL database is representing, for instance, the supplier system, a supplier system where we need to send this purchase order to, okay? So let me share my screen. I don't know, guys, if you can see my screen, Thrasos, Jürgen. Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. So what I'm gonna do is, here I am the procurement manager or procurement analyst. So I'm gonna generate a new purchase order. So let's assume I want to buy some printers and cartridges. So I'm gonna use Dell here, and the buyer is Rod Calvin. So I'm gonna create a purchase order, and then we're gonna add some items to this purchase order. So in this case, printers, the category name is printers. I'm just filling out the information. I want 123 printers. This is the unit of measure. I'm gonna say that each printer costs $45.99. I'm gonna add another line here. And this is cartridges. The category name is printer accessories. I want 1,200 cartridges. And I'm gonna use the same, the same unit of measure, And I'm gonna say, I don't know, each cartridge is $17.99. So I'm gonna submit this purchase order. So what I have in Oracle integration is, what is gonna happen is, we're gonna capture this event with the Oracle ERP Cloud Adapter, and then we're gonna send this to OCI streaming. Then we're gonna have another consumer integration that is gonna retrieve that purchase order from OCI streaming. And then we are gonna send that purchase order information into Azure SQL table where I have purchase orders. So basically, what I have here in Azure is a table where I have a purchase order table where I have the order ID and the different, let's say, information. So let's see if this purchase order was already generated. So, okay, so this is the purchase order US 1642116. So if we check at Oracle integration, we should see two integrations. So the first one is like the purchase order number. So we should see, let's say, like purchase orders going into Microsoft Azure. I think I got an error. Give me 1 second. Yeah, something is not working. Well, let me explain basically what I'm doing here, okay? Murphy's Law, yeah, sorry. So basically, what we have here, just to show you what the integration did, is this is the integration that receives the information from ERP Cloud. So basically, we receive the information from the PO and we send that into OCI streaming. So then I can have multiple consumers, and one of these consumers is Microsoft Azure. So for some reason is not working, sorry. But anyway, what is doing this integration is basically like capturing that PO stream, consuming that PO event from OCI streaming, and sending that to our Azure SQL database. Okay. Yeah, for some reason this is not working. Apologies for that. But basically, yeah, you can check it out in my LinkedIn. And the same thing we can do with Business Intelligence Cloud Connector. So in this case, what we can do is we can define an target or an external storage for this BICC connector. So what I have done here is basically establish a connectivity from Oracle ERP Cloud to my bucket that I call it BICC OIC JCG. So basically I have a bucket here where I'm gonna, let's say, send or we're gonna extract all the information coming from Oracle ERP Cloud. So what I can do basically is to manage or schedule an extract here. So we can define a cloud extract. So I'm gonna call it, I don't know, demo test 1. And basically here you can choose like the built-in reports that you have in Oracle ERP Cloud within Business Intelligence Cloud Connector module. And here I will use the standard line or PO report. So I can choose it. And then I can define that the external storage for this report is going to be my bucket, right? The one that I just set up. So then we can execute that information. So for this use case, let's go back to the second demo story that I'm showing. Is ERP BICC report is going to be sent to OCI object storage. I define a rule, an event rule, that whenever an object is created in this bucket, this is going to trigger an action or an event that is going to send this event to OCI streaming. And then when it's in OCI streaming, Oracle integration can consume this event. I can use the object storage API to retrieve that file. And then we can use the Oracle Integration Cloud REST connector to drop that file into blob storage. And then we can execute and use the SQL adapter connection that I defined here in Oracle Integration Cloud to backload information from blob storage, Azure blob storage, into Azure SQL database or data warehouse. Okay, so if we go back to my schedule, this is supposed to be a schedule in real time, but just for the purpose of the demo, I just execute it on demand. So when we check that it's succeeded, I can check my BICC object, bucket, and you can see that a zip file containing the PO lines was, let's say, sent to my bucket, and then I have a rule. I'm going to show you the rule. Basically, what I define is a rule where, let's say, once an object storage create object event happens with these conditions, where the resource name is a zip file and the bucket name is BICC OIC JCG bucket. So the action is please send this JSON with the metadata of this bucket and object into my stream that I call BICC stream. So basically, I have BICC stream here, right? So I define BICC stream here that is basically a ready-to-use Kafka-like event service that is OCI streaming. So here we can define that BICC stream. So basically, that's what the event rule does. So once we have that, then the integration is basically consuming the event. So yeah, something is happening with my connection to Azure, sorry. But anyway, what this integration does is basically consume the event payload from OCI stream, from my BICC stream. Basically from here, this is my BICC stream, and I'm consuming that from that. And then we can call OCI object storage REST API to retrieve the file. And finally, we can unzip the file using the stage file action in OIC. And finally, we can read file this file by segments, because imagine this file is, I don't know, 1 megabyte in size. So we can read it in chunks. And after that, we can just enhance or adapt this file to be sent to Azure Blob Storage. So here I have like the API or the API call to Azure Blob Storage to put an object into Azure Blob Storage. And then we can execute the Multicloud operation and invoke a store procedure that is gonna basically receive the file path and the table name to execute this bulk insert, let's say, procedure. So basically here in Azure, what I have is a store procedure that is that basically what it does is this bulk insert operation that takes a file or the file name that I'm defining as the input of this store procedure in my blob storage that I define here, in basically a container here, and I define the container as ERP Cloud. So that's what this store procedure in Azure is basically doing, like taking the file path and the table name and making this bulk insert operation that is gonna bulk load information from Azure Blob Storage into Azure SQL database. So that's basically what I'm doing there. So my apologies. I know Murphy's Law is attacking me right now. So let's go back to the slides. Anyway, you can see that a demo working in my YouTube channel or even in my LinkedIn shares. So Thrasos, can you see my decks? Yeah.
Yes, Juan Carlos, we can see it. By the way, Juan Carlos, if we can leave some time at the end for some questions that are on Q&A, that would be great. If we can.
Of course. So finally, just to highlight something, the OIC agent here is a key enabler, again, for customers who don't have Azure Data Factory or they currently don't have that. We can use the OIC Azure SQL Database Adapter together with the connectivity agent to basically load information into a private Azure SQL database or data warehouse, and use the connectivity agent to securely connect to this Azure private resource and actually load this information into this private data warehouse or database. And finally, as you can see, and Thrasos mentioned, we have a cross-cloud interconnectivity between Microsoft Azure and OCI. Obviously, for real-time operations, it's critical if we don't have like latency or we want to have like faster response times. So anyway, as you know, sometimes what we have seen in customers is they first want to solve the multi-cloud integration challenge, and after that, they always ask like how we can speed up the connectivity and how we can speed up those, in case they have real-time use cases. It's very important. They can get benefits from this interconnectivity to, let's say, avoid latency or even to avoid any kind of networking issue. So that's anything from my side. Back to you, Jürgen. Thank you.
Juan Carlos, thank you for the wonderful demo. That was an amazing presentation. While you look at the Q&A, let me summarize the webcast and then we answer some of the questions live. So in case you're not yet a member in the partner community, please make sure that you register now for integration and for developer and digital assistant. As a community member, you also get access to our community website. There you can find today's presentation as a PowerPoint document, and you can also find the link to our Oracle Video Hub with all the on-demand webcasts. Like Thrasos and Juan Carlos pointed out, there are several documents for multi-cloud integration. So make use of the documentation and use the local agent. So there's also a good white paper on that. We would like to welcome you at the Partner Technical Forum. We have two schedules, one for North America and EMEA, and the second one for JPEG. So with that, we would like to come to the questions and answers. So thank you for all the questions. We would like to highlight some of them. So the first question is from Frank, and he would like to know if you can use identity cloud service with Microsoft Azure, and if you can do a kind of federation. Thrasos, that's a question for you.
I think that Juan Carlos needs to address this question.
Yeah. So basically, you can have like a federated single sign-on within Oracle IDCS to delegate the the identity management and all of this to Azure Microsoft Active Directory. So basically, yeah, you could protect, I mean, in this case, we are protecting REST APIs with Identity Cloud Service because obviously, you know, the REST API is something that we're exposing from the Oracle side. That doesn't mean that this API cannot be protected using, you know, in this case, Active Directory. So instead of having a confidential application within IDCS, we're going to have a confidential application in Azure Active Directory. And once the REST API tries to validate the credentials or the token, the OAuth token in IDCS, IDCS is going to pass this request to Active Directory. So that would be the way to, use Active Directory to protect REST APIs from OIC. I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Thrasos, there's a question regarding Oracle Integration Cloud versus Oracle Data Integration. Maybe you can highlight the two solutions and what the use cases are.
Yes, I have also answered one similar question on the chat, Jürgen. The Oracle Integration Cloud is generally an enterprise integration PaaS offering meant to connect applications using endpoint services. Generally in real-time integration, preferably, even though asynchronous is also supported, and in a fashion that is essentially more or less real-time. The data integration tooling is used to drive integrations of bulk loads of data, generally done in a batch mode, maybe let's say once a day, right? Move a bulk of data from one location to the other, transform it and put it into a database. And the other big difference is essentially the data integration is between database to database, where the Oracle integration is generally anything to anything, right? It could be database, it could be Azure, it could be Salesforce, it could be what have you. Different tools for different implementations.
Great, thank you very much. Then we have multiple questions regarding the video and where you can find it. We publish all the videos at Oracle Video Hub, and there is an integration channel which you can subscribe. You find the link to the Video Hub also in the community newsletter, and at the community website, we published a PowerPoint presentation. Juan Carlos, there's a question from Pavan regarding Azure blog posts and if you can connect via a REST endpoint.
Sorry, which is the question? Sorry.
Let me read it out. Is it in Oracle Integration Cloud roadmap to give connectors to Azure Blob, that's storage, as I understood that you can use REST endpoints now?
Yeah. So currently, yeah, I mean, we have a partner at Banco who already have some custom connectors to Azure Blob Storage and other, let's say, cloud storage services from other vendors like S3 and Google Cloud Storage. But let's say what we have seen in many customers is they already have OIC or they already have OCI, an OCI account, and they want to leverage OIC for their multi-cloud integration approaches. So that's why I was showing that even if we currently don't have a native connector as part of the native connectors in Oracle Integration Cloud, we can solve that using the REST connector to connect to the Azure Blob Storage API, as well as the Google Cloud Storage API, as well as the S3 REST API.
Yeah, and the Banco adapter is published in the Oracle Cloud Marketplace, so you can search in there and you can get it from there.
Yeah. So let me read some questions. So while we need OCI object storage, we can create the stage file directly in OIC. Yeah, that's true. But in this case, you have two options. When you are, I mean, for ERP Cloud specifically, you can define, like, have native connectivity or define as external storages, OCI, and in this case, you can define OCI object storage or the internal ERP Universal Content Management web center content to be the target of those cloud extracts. What I showed in the demo is an event-driven approach, because we can leverage the OCI object events, like the OCI events specifically for an object created event. So we can leverage an event-driven architecture and solution approach for cloud extracts coming from ERP. Obviously, you can define the universal content management within ERP, within Fusion SaaS, as the target of those cloud extracts, which in fact would imply that the integration is not going to be event-driven. The integration is going to be a scheduled integration where you are going to call the UCM sub web service to retrieve the file. So that's why I showed and I clarified in the demo that this was an event-driven approach for cloud extracts and reporting into Azure. Okay. I don't know if that answers the question. I hope so. So it says there is a limitation if I use the OIC custom HTTPS endpoint as trigger of OCI object storage, that it only supports basic authentication, versus if I use Oracle Functions, which supports more authentication method. Well, I mean, the fact that we are using the REST connector and the capability that we have in the REST connector for OCI services in general is that the REST connector has the OCI signature, supports the OCI signature as the security policy for connecting to OCI services. So rather than using an OAuth 2.0 mechanisms to connect to those APIs, you can use the native security connectivity that we have with our REST connector to OCI services. So that's why I chose and I showed how you can connect to the OCI object storage REST API using the OCI signature version 1 mechanism. Okay. How to use OCI streaming? You need to create a stream in OCI streaming. Once you have that, you can use the Oracle integration OCI streaming adapter. You need to define the connection as trigger and target if you want to consume and produce messages from and into OCI streaming, and then you can play with that. I hope that answers the question as well.
Great.
Yeah, Jürgen, sorry, I saw that our solution, the one that I showed, is batch. That's why I clarified something. When the customer don't have a Azure Data Factory, that is an ETL or a data integration platform, where they can do transformations and all of that. That's why the assumption in that use case is, okay, I'm not going to do any transformation in OIC. We are delegating just the extraction and the drop off of the file to OIC. Once they have the file there, they can use an ETL platform like Azure Data Factory to do transformations and whatever they want with the data. This approach is when the customer don't have ADF. When the customer have ADF, okay, we can delegate it. If the customer don't have, we can do those complex transformations either in OCI data integration, or we can use ATP, autonomous transaction processing, as well. Yep.
Thank you very much. That was a nice Q&A and a great presentation. If you have questions, you can reach out to Juan Carlos, Thrasos, or myself anytime. Feel free to also connect via LinkedIn. We would like to say thank you for attending today's webcast. And if there are open questions, you can post them also on the Slack channel. We have a Slack channel dedicated for you as a partner, and the team will answer your question there. We would like to invite you to please complete the online survey once you leave and join the Partner Community Technical Forum webcast on March 23rd and 24th. We're looking forward to welcome you again. Thank you very much for joining.